Draydl's 10 years old now. He still likes to play. The problem with trying to take pictures of him is that he wants to be on my lap. And it's really impossible to take pictures of a cat who wants to be on your lap and not do anything interesting for the camera. He's a really good boy. The only problem is that he throws up a lot. Sometimes I have to clean up after him, but the vet says he has IBD, but I don't think he does. He has no problem with the other end, just the vomiting. And it's whole, so I know that he's just not digesting his food. The cat he's licking is the IBD cat. That's ChaCha. She's a cinnamon point. Dray is a solid champagne. Come on, Dray. Why don't you stay in one place so I can get a picture of you, huh? Well, it looks like I'm getting better close-ups than I thought I would get. She's watching him. He's checking her out. They're not really buddies, but she smells funny, so that's why he's sniffing her a lot. I have to keep checking his breath, so every day I smell his breath to make sure that it doesn't smell like urine, which would be a very bad thing, meaning that his kidneys were failing. But what it smells like to me right now is that he has a bad tooth in his mouth. And I've spent the last 10 minutes or so trying to look in his mouth and see if he actually does have a bad tooth or if there's something else going on in his mouth. I can't see anything, so I guess he's okay. I'll keep an eye on it and also keep smelling his breath. I've run my finger along his gums. He doesn't flinch. He just doesn't want me looking in his mouth. He doesn't like the pressure at the corner of his mouth when I try to open his mouth, and he paws at me to try to make me stop. I don't know if you can hear the cat in the background who was just howling. Draydl, this is not a good thing. Dray, how about getting down so that I can get a picture of you? No, he's going to stick his snoot right in the camera. Of course. He's an intrepid tonk. That's the first word I ever used to describe them. Because that's what they are. They're really out there. They're not afraid of anything. I once said that they would not hesitate to hop a greyhound to the coast. And I meant it. They really aren't afraid of anything, and sometimes that's a deficit. If you bring a new animal into the house, you have to be a little bit careful about the new animal, because the tonk is quite aggressive and will approach the new animal not aggressively, but with the thought in mind of getting acquainted quickly. He won't hurt the other animal. I've never had a tonk hurt another animal. The only cat that I've ever had like that was a Siamese that I had gotten as a pet, and she couldn't get along with any of the other cats, and I had to place her because she was killing kittens. So that was a very bad trait, especially in this house where we had a lot of kittens at the time. And so she went to another house to live and had a very, very good home there for the rest of her life. Her companion was one of those little tiny Italian greyhounds, and she could boss him around as much as she liked because he was very timid, and she was very, very powerful, both mentally and physically. Oh, here's ChaCha again. Let me see if I can get her into the camera. No, she wants on my lap. Draydl, what are you doing? You just going to sit there now? It's about time. You decided to cooperate? I guess the word I chose for the tonks is a word I could have applied to myself, too. I don't know too many women who went through what I've been through and came out on the other side intact. On the other hand, I've done some things that other women haven't done. One of the things that I really enjoyed was being an auto racing photojournalist, which was a lot of fun. On weekends, I'd go down to the NASCAR tracks down south. I was driving a 1969 Z28 high-performance 302 Camaro at the time. It was a replica of the car that Mark Donahue, a famous racing driver at the time, drove for Roger Penske. And I used to hang out at the track a lot. I was the only woman allowed in the pits where they change the tires and do the work on the car during the race, pre and after, of course, too. And I was having a lot of fun representing a magazine called Odyssey. It was all a joke, or at least that's how it started, but I ended up really doing the job and got a job for a newspaper called the Suffolk Sun, which was in competition with Newsday at the time, and for a few weeks I was writing a regular column, but eventually Newsday put the Sun out of business. I had other opportunities, and I did some camera work for a couple of the big corporations back then, but it was not an easy job, actually. It was a lot of work, and it could be very dangerous. I was running around the infield most of the time, and taking pictures of the cars. The one time I didn't was at Daytona during the 500, and during the 300, prior to the big race, I was up in the Goodyear Tower. They wouldn't let me work in the pits on that race. It really would have been too dangerous. And I watched while, unfortunately, a young man whom I met just prior to the race got into an accident. His car was literally cut in half, and he was killed immediately. I filmed the whole thing, but then I destroyed it afterwards. I was stringing for Life magazine at the time, and I really didn't want that film published. After I finished the Daytona 500, I think I did a couple more races, one up in Watkins Glen, where I met Dickie Smothers and was sort of his escort for the weekend. But I think the fun had gone out of it at that point, so I went on to other things. I wasn't breeding cats yet, but the time came when just using my male, my stud cat, Siamese, to another friend's female wasn't enough for me, and I started showing kittens and then adults, Siamese, in CFF, the Cat Fanciers Federation, another club. And you know what? I started showing Tonkinese around 1975, I think, in CFF, and I had joined the Tonkinese Breed Club. But that's a whole nother story, so I'm going to stop here for the time being, and I hope you enjoyed this little video. We'll do it again soon. Meanwhile, please subscribe.